warnings typically do require some type of evaluation by an IT person. Finally, exceptions means that it's a type of event where a threshold has been exceeded and corrective action needs to be taken. Another definition to include here would be the definition of an alert. An alert or an alarm is simply a reaction to an event. So alerts or notifications can be sent, for example, if there is an exception or if there's a warning. So again, think of alerts just as the notification component of event management. Alerts can actually be generated, and there can be automation between the systems, meaning that if a server has some type of failure, whether it be a warning or exception, it can automatically hand off that request or that warning into an incident management system for then future evaluation by the appropriate technical application or operations team. So we've talked about incidents compared to problems and compared to events. Incidents also are compared to service requests. So the service requests are normally handled by the service desk. So the service desk may be recording incidents and service requests in much the same manner, using the same forms. But the important difference is especially related to time frames or expected resolution time. So service requests often will have longer lead times because a service request does not designate any type of failure or disruption of service. A service request is simply the request for a new or a changed service. So if I am requesting access to a new Salesforce automation system, I don't currently have that capability today. So the agreed service with IT has not been disrupted. So service requests can be planned. There can be sufficient lead time to obtain any necessary approvals for a particular request. The risks and costs are typically well known and accepted. So again, using that example, if I want a new Salesforce automation account, my IT organization should know exactly what that cost is going to be and what impact that providing me that access will have. An incident may require or may depend upon fulfillment of a service request. So for example, I'm called because I'm having problems with my smartphone. The service desk creates an incident record. They conduct some quick troubleshooting or triage, and they determine that there is no good resolution other than a replacement of my smartphone. So at that time, if they are going to request a new smartphone, then that would then dovetail into a service request. On the flip side of that, though, a service request is not fulfilled by an incident record. So those are the basic processes within the service operation phase of the life cycle. The one process I did not touch on was access management or access request management. It is very similar to service request management. You are requesting access for a new service or changes of access to an existing service. It really is where we see the execution of policies that we set earlier in service design and specifically in the security process of the life cycle. We've gotten to here the fifth phase of the service life cycle, which is continual service improvement. So I mentioned earlier the Deming Cycle, plan, do, check, act. This Deming cycle is the focus of the CSI model within the continual service improvement phase of the life cycle. So making sure that we understand what the business vision is, where are we now in terms of reaching that vision, where do we want to be, how do we get there, did we get there, and then how do we keep that momentum going. So when we are working with our customers as an IT organization, we want to make sure that the service meets their needs at the time of implementation, and also that we are continually improving the service that we're providing so that it doesn't remain static. Especially within IT, things change so rapidly that it really is a significant effort for us to keep up with new technologies and to ensure that we are meeting the changing needs of the business. When we focus in CSI on our critical success factors, that helps us to identify the types of metrics that we want to measure, and specifically what types of key performance indicators we want to track. A critical success factor can be defined by our strategy. So, for example, we may want to protect IT services when we're making changes. Those critical success factors then relate to key performance indicators. So there are a lot of metrics that we can measure related to processes and services, but only the most important of those are considered key performance indicators. If, for example, our business has a critical success factor of keeping up with the competition, if we're in a very competitive environment, then quick response is going to be a key performance indicator. So how quickly are we responding to requests? How quickly are we approving changes, completing changes, and so on? Those are the types of key performance indicators that might relate to a fast-paced type of environment and that type of critical success factor. KPIs here, it states, should be selected to ensure that efficiency, effectiveness, and cost effectiveness are all managed. Efficiency and effectiveness are repeated throughout the ITIL service lifecycle. So we are focused on business needs for one, but also on overall efficiency and effectiveness. To give you some examples of the types of KPIs that we might measure for service operations. So for the service desk and incident management, we may identify a critical success factor as the ability to handle increasing call volume. So if we know that our organization is growing very quickly and we expect to hire more people, then again, KPIs related to speed would be the ones that we would want to measure. So how quickly are we restoring service? How quickly are we answering the phones? Are we having to escalate incidents, therefore lengthening the time that it might take to get a response or resolution? For problem management, there might be different types of KPIs. So if we are really looking to have an integrated system that provides us with good knowledge or known error information, then we would want to measure things like how many of these known errors are we actually adding to the system. So are we keeping good track of known errors? Are we publishing those knowledge articles? So in looking at all of these topics that we've covered today, and we've covered quite a few in this last 45 minutes or so, just a few thoughts in closing here. There are a lot of challenges that are being faced by IT organizations and also by just general service management organizations. And what RightStar seeks to do is to employ the ITIL framework in order to help our customers maximize the usage of service management terminology, the service management frameworks, the products, and the technologies. We do that through providing assessments and training. We do have specific approaches that we take in providing assessments, and we'd be certainly happy to talk in more detail with you about those assessments. The assessments help you to identify not just what processes are most important to your organization, but also to identify how you are doing. What is your relative maturity level in terms of each of those processes, and therefore which of those processes requires the most attention and improvement. I mentioned we do have additional training. A lot of this material that I've covered today is covered in greater depth in our ITIL V3 Foundation certification classes. The certification is part of the overall class, so in a 3-day class, the exam is provided on the afternoon of the 3rd day. Those classes can be provided on site or at your location or at our site in Vienna, Virginia. For organizations where it may not be necessary for people to go through the full 3-day class, we do also provide similar types of presentations to what we provided here today. These ITIL overviews can provide specifics on a particular process or particular phase of the service lifecycle. We also provide a simulation exercise which helps as a good team building exercise to really get people involved hands-on with IT service management. So to recap on what we've reviewed here today, we started with service strategy. So we developed a strategy, we designed a service, we then, in service transition, released that service into the production environment. So it is up to us on the service desk or on the technical application or operations management teams to manage the day-to-day needs of the business and ensure that the response that we provide and the support that we provide is consistent with our overall strategy. As we are performing our day-to-day activities, again, we look at the last phase of the life cycle, or continual service improvement, and we see how we can adjust and take corrective action to provide increasingly better service to our customers.